Hey, what's up? I just want to tap in with a quick video. I think it might be a little bit melodramatic where I'm making this because right now I'm on a city street, and I'm taking a break from working, and it would be a little bit, if someone were to see me, it might be a little bit like poignant because I'm sitting here like I got a guitar, I got a bandana, some long hair with purple, a little bit of purple lace front, and then I'm sitting next to a motorcycle. I've probably been getting more flowers about the motorcycle than I have in my whole life. Like, you go your whole life and nobody's trying to give you your flowers. That means like you're props or anything. You get up on a motorcycle and it's like, oh, here you go. Like badass, like real life badass just pull over like, sir. I just wanted to say, I saw that bike and I just wanted to give you your flower, man, because that's a beautiful bike, man. That's a badass bike, man. And then you get all the attention that you never thought you would want to admit, that you always wanted to thought you would never get. But actually, it had been circumstances that someone put you on that because you were more so going for a go-kart. You're going for the inconspicuous look. But the salesman had ripped the transmission out the damn go-kart before they gave it to your ass. So it's more like a kart. Mario Kart. Not go-kart. Mario Kart. So I'm on Genie Kart. But so it actually took a motorcycle, and if you just think about the dynamics of all it takes to put something on four wheels up and down the road, all the repairs, all that you have to line up in life, sometimes I think four-wheel cars just simply aren't viable. Because I coughed up you'd think that. So it took a motorcycle. It took back to two wheels. Maybe actually motorcycles are more balanced. The actual finance that would go into having a motorcycle running, all the circumstance and viability that make a motorcycle might actually be more viable. I wanted to talk a little bit about. I'm going in little directions, but this is related. I think that our society is. I was watching a video by a man who was this man was he was interviewing a former member of, like, he was involved in like criminal activity, like professional criminal activity, serious no nonsense stuff that could actually go up and rival against like state sanctioned authority, this type of criminal activity. But the man had been from Mexico, and so this American man was interviewing him, and he was saying, yeah, but so is it not that Mexico is not afraid of death? That Mexico has like some kind of like shout out much respect, simple and true respect to the Maya people, the Aztec people, the Inca people, the indigenous, all the people of Mexico and the Americas respect, mad respect and love, because the people from Mexico and the United States, or the Americas, without the arbitrary land jurisdiction. Not that land is arbitrary, because real battles are fought about like the lines of authority and transaction for human beings. But shout out to those cultures. But what this man was saying is that because he was suggesting to this criminal who has made, I think that man, I don't mean to call him a criminal because we can't judge anyone or call anyone anything. We have the ability to change. All of us can change, and all of us can learn to go to improve or to backslide. That's within all of us. So I don't like to condemn or designate anyone as anything. But he had a background in things that could be appreciated as criminal activity, and then I believe he gave his life to or he accepted Islam, and he seemed sincere. I've been around faith settings. I've watched a lot of scholarship of people from Muslim backgrounds, and then also I've been in communities with people from faith backgrounds, and I've seen when people actually really do change, and they actually turn a new leaf, and from the core. Because for human beings, nothing's really real until it's from the core, because we're more so from within to without. And according to some people that I've talked with, inner reality, inner space is more potent, and is actually the standpoint of what we experience superficially that we can see in front of us. It had existed from within, then it was subtle, then it was expressed within the different cycles that we are amidst and about, and that we inform and are informed by. But he was the American journalist was saying, is it not that people that Mexico has less respect, or that they're more capricious, or that they don't think much about life and death? But I wanted to say that that actually might be what it is to be a human being, because I grew up in the Southwest around many people who were of Mexican descent, or there's different. Actually, I made other videos about how a lot of language, according to Tashreeq Bey, both Tashreeq Bey would say connotative language. That's like metaphorical, or language that is symbolic or like metaphoric would be connotative, and then denotative is expressing like a description. But there can be actually those can be imbued with different shades of meaning that suit communication, or that also confound communication in some of the gray area and the nuance. Part of that is just the simple difference that we're coming from different perspectives, so we have a different experience of words, even though we may speak the same language. But so actually, when I was growing up in the Southwest, there's actually a family. It's actually kind of significant that sometimes I think children actually experience racism, and the children don't know what it is, but it had actually been racism. There was one family where there's a couple times where like the parents would have like words with me that were kind of strong. I was no more than about 4th grade, and my friend was actually my friend was interested in their daughter. Their daughter was somewhat interested in me, I think, and so he would actually be pursuing her, but then somehow the parents construed that I had been entertaining their daughter. We were peers. She was in my 4th grade class, and my heart was already securely in the wrapped around the finger of another girl that was like that had the same letter to the last name. So I wasn't too much. I was pretty much oblivious of any other girls, other than that they would just be my way of being interested in the girl that I liked, because I liked her a lot. But their daughter, she was. I could appreciate that she was like, she would have been. I could appreciate that she was nice looking, but I never really had. I never had interest in her or hey man, this is my bike. Am I okay here? I'm waiting for an order to come in, 1099, and then I'm gonna be out of here.
Okay.
But I'm just putting my mind on a video before I'm never seen again on a motorcycle.
Did you pay the meter?
No.
Okay. Do you have a quarter?
Yeah.
The quarter take care of it for 10 minutes.
Okay, sure.
All right, appreciate it.
Sure thing. So I'm making all this righteous content. I might as well pay for what I'm doing. But so what I meant to say is that so this family, they would be more so the mother, you know, they would actually like somewhat reprimand me and like almost like near about like just kind of like put their foot down when I hadn't actually done a damn thing or gave a damn about them. I didn't give a damn about them, but they somehow gave a damn about I didn't do anything to them or give a damn, but they somehow found themselves ample to correct me. But then also one time her daughter was in my class, and I made some reference to I think Hispanic. I didn't mean that. I didn't know that you could say the word Hispanic derogatory when I was growing up, because when you're a child, you actually don't know the history and the politics of different words and histories. But she was like, actually, that's an offensive term, Hispanic, and so I'm not sure what she actually would have preferred to be called, because I know that the word so I think, what is it? Mexico is what is it? So the Americas, I think the United States and Mexico is something called Omecum, or is it there's a word. I don't mean to be flippant about that, but there's an actually Olmec, I think. There's like a deeper history of this land and the people and what they were called. Like, for example, California, I think that's actually Khalifa, according to Tashreeq Bey. There's actually like that might have been like a deity or that was revered by some of the people in California. And I think like maybe words like Malibu would be like, they were like a Malibu people. That was a tribe. Where I'm at in Minnesota, you have like Minnehaha. You have even Minneapolis. That's a native word, but there's different nations in the Native Americans, obviously, and they're not necessarily in reciprocity with one another. Just like human beings are always gonna, like, it's part of human beings to form intergroup and cross-group rivalries. I've done some videos about that. Not that I'm an expert, but just by my perception. What I meant to say is that there can be ambivalence and distinction and nuance about what you refer to any people. That might actually be that might actually be a sweeping assumptive designation to designate any large group of people as one thing. Even something like people that would be considered a nation, ostensibly, you could probably find people within that nation that would have a feeling about what they are with respect to other people in that jurisdiction. But it's appreciated that the history of Mexico, there's been a lot of beauty, but also turbulence. But that's the human experience. But this man was suggesting that maybe people in Mexico are less they're less they don't flinch they don't bat an eye at life and death about inflicting it or losing it. But I think that when I was a boy in the Southwest, I may have been exposed to the culture of the Southwest, as in the Mexican, the Chicano, maybe the Tejano, and then because there'd be a lot of people likely from Texas in that area, the Navajo or the Diné, the Zuni in New Mexico. I think the symbol of New Mexico, that's a Zuni picture, and that was on our basketball tournament that my mom organized in the Southwest, the jerseys. But so I was actually imbibed in some of that culture, and some of that culture it would retain the actual strength and potence before colonization. I would imagine that a lot of that is the people are still the people, and their history is still who they are. So that history and that influence is still there here also in the North. But the politics are different in how maybe where the communities are exist. So I had more contact with the culture of the Southwest as the original culture to the land, more so than in the where I'm at now. Although I had friends who were Native American where I live now that I had deep experiences with, or cool experiences with. But I meant to say is that when I was a boy, sometimes I was appreciated as being fearless by actually my father, my friend's father, who was a Native American from Florida living in the Southwest and having history in California also. But I think that all I meant to say is that actually might be a natural state of a human being where, some little kids, like they see something dead, they're like, one is that it's when something is dead, it's totally dead. So that might be, so you can't, there's something called the minority principle according to Nassim Nicholas Taleb. If you have two opposing ideas or ideas about what or how to do something, the one that does not compromise is going to prevail. It might be less formidable, seemingly less potent, but if it will not compromise, it will prevail. So therefore, you are a living person and you see a dead person. That thing is completely dead and does not flinch at being dead. It's kind of like they say bad manners corrupt bad company corrupts good manners. That's an example of the minority principle, because likely when people are bad, they're all the way bad. So they're more influential than someone who is mostly good, but also flirts with what's bad or is intrigued by what's bad. That ambivalence, that equivocation, that duplicity of being two at once will be overwhelmed and influenced and unseated and usurped by that which does not prevail according to the minority principle. So with a dead body, the dead body does not flinch. It is completely dead and does not think itself alive for one instant. And so therefore the dead body, you can't get your eyes off it because it's actually influencing you, because it's more congruent than you are being alive. Being alive, we're always a little bit alive and a little bit dead, a little bit awake, a little bit asleep, a little bit conscious, a little bit unconscious and subconscious and super conscious at all times. But the dead body is just completely beyond. So it will draw like that. But nonetheless, a dead body is not that big of a deal to a human being in nature outside of the way we're raised. So what I meant to say is that I think that in our society, the actual mechanism of control, the means of control, is the sense of paternalism. That might be the most. What do you know more formidable in influencing you, verbatim, unflinching, that is tyrannical, than the experience of your parents. If that wasn't your experience, you might be fortunate, because I think that it does more harm than good. The actual authority of our parents, that they now we do need their support and we need their guidance. That's the human experience, but it's not it's experience as profound. Your parents are, according to the artist Mos Def, he said that your father's voice is an example of gravity. There's different forms of gravity, and your father's voice is gravity. One, because that's who you are. You can't my brother, I won't say my whole name, but my dad would say something, Gainey, Gainey. And so when he would correct me, he was actually an excellent disciplinarian, because he had grown up in those German schools, and he would discipline me with questions like, what kind of nonsense is this? You actually can't answer that, and if you try to, you're talking back. So you just got put in your place right there, and you have to think about being put in your place. What kind of nonsense is this? What could we do? What could happen if we talk like this? Who taught you? Who are these kids telling you to behave like this? Where did you pick this stuff up at? That's how he would correct me. But when he would say my name, he would say Gainey. And it's you, so it's overwhelming, but it's paternalism. And also you have a sense that they know what's best, and they can somewhat your parents likely have given you some form of benefit or treats, therefore they can take you, that the hand which gives can take. So you sense that instinctually as very formidable. But the state apparatus, the state, the powers that be, for lack of a better word, they seek to emulate that paternalism at all levels of your experience in a society since you're a very small child, way down the line. Your principal can talk to you like your parent. Your teacher can talk to you like your parent. In the old times, an adult could talk to you like your parent. There may be some hellified gray area about that, about talking to someone that's like they're your kid, but actually you get talked to like you're a kid by a lot of people your whole life. Usually it's coming down from people who are older than you as you start out, but then it starts to come across and from beneath you. And then you appreciate that you are in a paternal society and you are experiencing power that is a power differential, the final say so, and a tone of paternalism. And it's very daunting, and it's probably one of the brutal things about this modern iteration of life, is that paternalism, how it affects a person's self-esteem and experience of themselves in very simple things, very small things, like a job. But you have to be there though. You have to be at a job, and you have to have these people talking to you like that. So yes, you can vote ostensibly. I think that voting, it just makes us buy into the system and believe in the system. But the paternalism is very powerful, and so I think that. But with the paternalism, it's also, so where does this paternalism come from? It comes from the gun. So we don't live under the state, we live under the gun. You take yourself to work so you can pay your bills, your rent at gunpoint, because you might not have a gun in your face, but if you transgress a law trying to do that, trying to rob Peter, that is a job, to pay Paul, that is a landlord or someone doing next to nothing and receiving the lion's share of your work, if you go about that in an incongruent way that's not appreciated, you can actually have you can have a gun in your face. You can find a gun in your face. Or if not that, you can have the elements on you, which I think the elements aren't actually as bad as we're taught they are. That's one thing that of control, is that we are taught to. So what I meant to say is that this iteration of life, it actually teaches us to fear death more than a human being might do in nature. And that compromises so much of the experience of life and dying, because you don't fully live. According to Osho, if you don't live fully, totally, you don't die totally. And that might be more regrettable than dying, is to not die totally. So what would that? So an example of that is like motorcycles. Who the hell has the nerve to get up on a motorcycle? Somebody that has to, that got a go-kart that doesn't go, and they got guns in their face, would be someone that might think about a go-kart, or a motorcycle, or if they like bikes. And I want to say, if you were good at riding bikes when you're a kid, a motorcycle is not that hard. It's not that much different. If you were decent at a bike when you were a kid, I would say that a lot of it's more like when you were say you're a little kid and you were coming down a hill, and then you put the brakes on real smooth and you let your feet hang out, you let it all hang out, or then you lean to the side. that little swag you did right there, it's actually still with you, and deeply, because our body registers memory probably better than we do intellectually, and so that swagger, that style is still with you. But all I meant to say is that this society is a paternal society, and one of the main heart of paternalism is that do as I say or else. Or else is your concept of death as being something scary and bad that you can't handle. And so thereby, someone who has the control of death, so for all we hear about the state taking care of us and putting money, tax money into the schools and curriculum and the infrastructure and whatnot, how much backhanded resources do they put into death? That is implements of mayhem, weapons as we have not, we actually can't fathom and conceive some of the weaponry that would exist. And probably other people, marginalized people in different conflicts, have actually felt that and know about that as what's not reported in the news. I think that one thing that changed American society, my mom would appreciate, is that you had the church, the power of the state ruled with an iron fist. Also, medical professionals were a part of that. But then, around the time of the Vietnam War in the United States, that was significant because they were showing bodies. Now, a lot of times we have ambulances, and they put the ambulance, like they put the siren on in rush as if they're saving someone's life. Like, because that actually, they might have even put the TV show. I'm gonna make a conspiracy right now, a damn conspiracy right now. This had been a conspiracy. I'm saying they created the show ER just so that when we see ambulances driving up the road, we could think that people are actually getting their life saved in some critical fashion, where the doctors are very savvy, attractive, and they're saving people's life hand over fist just at the last minute with cooperation that's very stressful. And then they're arguing, and then they're making up over it out of like beautiful stuff that would get attention on TV, like stuff like that. We have that concept that these ambulances are saving people's life. And did you take CPR? You took CPR, right, in school? How sturdy do you think that CPR would be to save somebody's? Have you ever seen somebody that's near about dying? That's like about that. That's like how crazy, how heavy that is. How sturdy do you think that little? Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, because all things are possible with the breath. According to someone I met at a store from India in my area, an Indian restaurant, he said if you can control and manage the breath, you can control and manage anything. Anything. So I'm not saying breathing into someone's mouth and sharing the breath of life is not significant. According to Arthur Avalon, a person who can create breath, it would have to be immortal because they would have a power that's immortal, because breath is deathless. So I would say that a lot of us, when you conceive a child or you make love, you're actually somewhat sharing breath and also creating breath, a new life, a new spirit, a new breath, a new life, a new spirit. So we can say that human beings, we actually we are possessed of some of the endowment of what has conceived us, and thereby some of our skills, both like our skills in life, but also our capacity as a human being, are among the lines of what's created. So you make love to someone, and now there's a child just like you. You can't say that you didn't have a hand in that, and that's also something that we could not replicate. That's profound, near upon immortal, or beyond what we consider a mortal, limited human being, a relative human being, to do something like to create a life just like you. And you actually do that when you're making love. So that's an example how there's some of us that's beyond what we'd appreciate as a human, but also some of our, like, even certain things we do daily are way more sophisticated and deep than you could appreciate. And if you try to replicate that intentionally, preconceive a replication of that, it would be way more daunting than it would seem, even with the technology. But all I meant to say is that I think we are taught to fear death, because the state actually has a monopoly over death. That is the means of shelter and sustenance, which is part of the fear of death. Like, where am I going to go? What am I going to eat? But then also the actual apparatus to incite an untimely death, on an industrial scale, and also sophisticated and covert, like some of your like famous slayings of like famous people. Some people say that some of our famous musicians and artists have been slain in underhanded ways because their influence as artists would amount to a form of political power, and whoever writes the rules can change the rules. So what are the rules of about engaging a person? We're shown one thing in media, but they can make up the rules. But we're largely taught to fear death, and that exactly keeps us under paternalism, I think. But what I meant to say with the premise of this video is that I think that there's a word I was looking for in another video called sannyasin. That's similar to Siddhaka in India. According to in the East, according to Arthur Avalon, Siddhaka is a person who undergoes sadhana, which is like an all-encompassing spiritual quest that tests a person's mettle and skill and management of themselves in their walk. A sannyasin is similar to that, but a sannyasin, I'm not actually from that culture to enunciate how or that they're even different, but my understanding is that a sannyasin is like a renunciate. So the Siddhaka, you may still be, I think there's like householder, business person, warrior, in like a menial class, like a labor class. That would, I would imagine that there can be different forms of sadhana for those. Sadhana is a beautiful word. That's one of the beautiful words I've come across in this life, is sadhana, and what that means of a Siddhaka. And then but sannyasin, Osho, the order, would talk a lot about sannyasin, and I think that it's a little bit, there's a little bit of a paradox in Osho, because Osho, he was a deep spiritual teacher, and he talks about things that are very deep. However, he had a little bit of a materialistic bent, it would seem, and he would call himself like a spiritual playboy, and he was actually a little bit engrossed or very comfortable with materialism. But he could have some interesting ways of looking at that. One is that I've made other videos that we may not actually amount to real cooperation, and therefore like peace and harmony without an economic component. So that might actually somewhat be a context for some of his materialism, frankly speaking, because he had like numerous Rolls Royces where people were giving him their earnings and their savings in order to cast off materialism and consumerism and actually embrace a spiritual path and a spiritual experience in quest earnestly. And then he maybe garnered some of their sacrifice and their donation, and he levied that into actual fine vehicles and maybe different opulence. Now you could say that there would be sophisticated maybe those vehicles were being used as like capital, like some kind of sophisticated finance, that there'd be a reason. But all I meant to say is that was a little bit ambivalent. But then he talked a lot about sannyasins, and he had people that would wear orange to symbolize sannyasin. When you symbolize something publicly, that's real news, because this existence experiences you different. I was riding down the road today with this purple bandana on a motorcycle in a northern reach of the United States, and there was actually a deer by the highway in broad daylight. When I drive at night, I expect deer, but not so much during the day. But the times that deer have actually crossed my path has been in the daytime. And a lot of times, if you're kind of hesitant, you're like sandbagging, you're like hanging back because you think a deer might jump out. That's exactly when a deer will jump out, because they can sense you, and they can anticipate some of your weakness, because nature can anticipate anything weak, both predator and prey. So that deer will actually jump out in front of you to like, oh, here comes a punk. Oh, I'm gonna go for it. Here comes a punk. Here comes a little punk. I'm gonna go for it. Then they mistime it. But I was driving down the road on a motorcycle that sounds like a motorcycle with a purple do-rag or a bandana, and then with the sun shining on me, and that deer looked at me, and then it ran back like it was scared of me, like it was scared of a biker. Like a deer would actually be scared. A biker would look different than a little old sedan to a deer. An actual biker would look different, can be appreciated as a different aesthetic, a different look, even to an animal. And actually the purple might be doing the purpose of, like, a lot of people, they'd say wear safe colors on a motorcycle so that you stand out. If I had a black helmet, the deer might not have flinched like that. So the deer actually responded to my appearance. This reality responds to our appearance in significant ways. How that can be double and come all the way full circle. So that these people were wearing orange like that as sannyasins around Osho, that's significant to themselves and to existence, seeing them and them seeing themselves in existence. So that's not nothing to play with. And actually in the old societies, when a person would take the mantle of a renunciate in a somewhat solitary a wandering lifestyle, but also to further spiritual self-culture, discipline, and etiquette. That was no light thing, and you were held accountable to that. You actually you now must be accountable to how you present yourself. However, you are entitled to certain benefits. So like if you're seeking alms, you're entitled to certain alms as a renunciate in other cultures, and it's a disgrace or a breach of social conduct and bearing to affront or ignore or disdain or be indifferent to someone that's seeking alms that's actually of that path. But what I meant to say is that I think that some of us have the exact wrong idea about what existence is, because we are here to learn. I think that's my premise, is that our occupation in life and our duty, for lack of a better, according to Osho, duty is a 4-letter word, but it is our prerogative and also expectation. I had a guitar teacher once who said that it's important to separate the difference between expectations and aspirations. But it is a lot of our aspiration, but also our expectation to learn, because we are deeply a part of this existence, and we affect the experience of ourselves, which is part of this existence, and others, which are part of this existence. The outcomes, the experience, the identity, the destiny of other people, we actually hold that in one another's hands. So therefore, we must be somewhat excellent and effective in the things that we do, because there's a cost to it, to ourselves and others. For our skill, there's a benefit and a cost for accruing skill, displaying skill, or failing to do that. So therefore, this existence must be excellent to stay viable. It's always cleaning itself. That's why we're eating so much, because we're actually cleaning the environment like that. But a lot of things actually clean the environment. I once was in proximity to a military training, and they were actually referencing the Bible in that military training. They were saying that there's one part where Jesus was talking to like maybe Peter about wheat sifting, like sifting someone's wheat. That's a very brutal euphemism for like killing someone or dispatching someone. But this person in the military training was like, yeah, this is the wheat sifting business, and sometimes you sift people's wheat, and sometimes you get your wheat sifted. That's actually deep, because in life, we're actually sifting life's wheat, and life is sifting our wheat at all times to keep things clean. What's the meanest thing? The meanest thing is a clean person. Cleanliness is next to godliness, but it also says fear God. So cleanliness is next to fear. Something that can clean us is formidable, and we're actually always cleaning ourselves in this existence, both within our human organism and the environment and the social context. We're always cleaning things, and it can be very brutal. And then we may try to get advantage about that, but we're all going to have to pay different things and suffer different things just by the inevitability of it. But what I meant to say is that we're presented this life as that our natural life is an end unto itself. Our time upon this earth is precious, more than precious, so precious that we must be terrified of losing our opportunity to exist, such that we actually lose our real opportunities of existing by sheltering and hunkering down and being safe. But what I meant to say is that might actually be a means of keeping people down and in check and getting the better of them. But what I meant to say is that in India in the past, it was a natural progression of a person's life to go from like a child to a latter adolescent to a student to a business person to a family person, and then to a renunciate. And you would be out of line if you took on the lifestyle of a renunciate while you still had liabilities. You would be out of line if you took on the life of a renunciate while you haven't lived out your abilities and your liabilities in other parts of your life. But the appearance of a path, of a spiritual path that is out a little bit outside of doors, outside of the dynamics of being a householder. According to the Holy Bible, when a person has a family and they become a householder, they are beholden to their family, and they actually somewhat must worship mammon, that is business, because the family is the first priority. Therefore, feeding the family is their first priority and duty, for lack of a better word, and therefore paying homage to the affairs of men and dealings that would afford a person money to support their family is what rules when it's about family. So there's actually a little bit of a dark side to things, even being a family person. But so the path of being a renunciate was nothing light, but it more so happened for you or to you, not necessarily by you, although it involves your choice. But what I want to say is that a lot of things are not working. You see a lot of videos proliferate about how different jobs are not working. Part of it might be we actually have a little bit of an unnatural life now lifespan, where the resources that are available are not exactly congruent to what would be available in the environment. We somewhat fear death, hide death, and avoid death in such terms of treatment. Now, when nature appreciates something as being sick, it breaks that thing down and it revitalizes that thing into some different form according to the processes of nature. But we more so arbitrarily try to form fit that and curate that to our liking. So we're not ready for someone to die. They might not understand themselves as being ready to die. So we're going to interfere with the processes of nature based on scientific inquiry and discovery. That is manipulation and bias. Educated, academic, erudite, professional bias is a lot of what science is to my taste. But we don't actually appreciate, is that good for the environment, a person's loved ones, or even themselves, to extend death according to man-made arbitrary imposition. If I was knocking on the door, I would want a reprieve to exist longer so I could do more. But it does beg the question, is medical intervention serve anyone or anything, even the people being intervened, if that's actually where nature would have someone? But I think that death can be more natural, but also this society, as we understand living to be 90 years of consumption, 95 years of consumption, 80 years of consumption, that might not be natural, and that might actually interfere with and go beyond, sidestep the real process, the real learning, the real meaning of a person's existence, what we potentially could have experienced here, how much, how great, how far, how simple we would have been maybe a deeper experience, even if it was shorter in numerical time. Would you rather live a long, bland life, or like a life that's real for the duration of a life that's real? Which would you choose? I would probably choose a real life. I'm not asking to have nothing cut, obviously, shortly, but I would appreciate real opposed to man interfered with. But what I meant, so I got one more video that's a little bit heavier topic, but it's going to take some more effort, and the day is getting away doing this content, so I got to keep working. But I got one more piece that I'm going to offer with this. I hope it's going to be of value to someone. Peace.